Okay, cool. So, good evening, everybody. I hope you had a good day. Mine was exhausting, but hey, I've got a bit of energy left for you, so let's start. Welcome to the Power of Pseudo-elements. Before I start, don't bother take a screenshot or whatever. I will share a PDF of this presentation. Okay, so just focus. Also, I will try to read your questions along the presentation and answer it directly or later. I don't know yet. Okay, so I'm Geoffrey. I'm a lead designer, sometimes UX designers, depending on who is asking. I work at Foyer Group with a team of 10 designers. If you are a client to Foyer and don't like the application, tell me later. I'm almost a former front-end developer. Yep, I say almost because I can't quit. I'm kind of an addict. So here is an overview of what I'm going to talk about. Also, tell me if you have a kind of a delay between what I'm saying and the slide. It happens sometimes. So I'm going to define pseudo-elements. Then I will talk about the reason I bring back this topic on the table. I will pass by the basics of using them to put everybody on the same page. Then I will show you some fun and sometimes useful demonstration and code. And to finish, I will show you the future. Okay, let's go. What are those pseudo-elements? So in CSS, there are two kinds of pseudo-elements. There are the ones acting like a new HTML in your code. And pseudo-classes, they help you with targeting more precisely elements of your document. A bit of code. Here is an example of pseudo-class. So you have two paragraphs. I target the first one with a pseudo-class. Okay, it's like I added a class on the first element. So first child here is a pseudo-class because it can be replaced by a class on one or multiple elements in your HTML code. For pseudo-elements, let's take this simple paragraph now, and I'm going to make the first letter bold. Okay, it's like I added a span element within my HTML to style it. Okay, so first letter is a pseudo-element because it replaces somehow an HTML element. That's the difference between a pseudo-element and a pseudo-class. To keep this talk simple, I'm going to talk about before and after those two pseudo-elements, but they are not alone in the pseudo-element universe. You have to know it, but there are also first letter, first line, selection, extracts, there are, and also new ones, but I will talk about those at the end of the talk, okay? What about those specific pseudo-elements before and after? They generate content, literally. We will see where, what, and how afterwards. They are in the family of tree-abiding pseudo-elements, meaning that they can't create new elements outside the target element. It's kind of technical, but no worries, you don't have to remember that. There are other kind of pseudo-element families like typographic pseudo-elements, like the first letter. We see it just before. First line, which allows you to style typographic stuff. Okay, and you have highlight pseudo-elements like selection, which allows you to style what the user highlights on the page, for instance. Before and after pseudo-elements are pretty simple. It generates the content before or after the content of the target. Almost all known CSS can be applied on this new content. For instance, the dash or numbers before a list item is generated content. Not with before or after, but still it's a generated content. I will come back to all of this with code and visual example, no worries. So Why are we gonna talk about it? Yes, tell me why. Please tell me you've got the Tell Me Why song in your head. Tell me why. You're right, I'm digging up an old topic. Pseudo-elements exist since 2003 and are in candidate recommendation since 2011. I like to talk about all things while everybody else is talking about grid layout, flexbox, client functions, because pseudo-elements are either unknown or underestimated, but it's not the only one misunderstood concept. Sorry. For instance, even the concept of classes seems to be unknown. In this tweet, Max asks people what's the color of the text of those divs just by reordering the classes in HTML. So it's an example, but most people are wrong here. The right answer is both blue, okay? So I can totally imagine that showing you all CSS properties with demonstration in code will be useful for everyone at some point. And even Rachel Andrew said, don't forget that all CSS still exists and is useful. You don't need to use something fancy for every effect. It's wise. Okay, so now I spent a bit of time on the context. Let's dive into the concrete. The syntax, for instance, is quite common CSS, okay? It's, so you have your selector, a P here, followed by double colons and your pseudo-element, and here it's a P4. Content property with an empty string as value at least. You can have a lot of things. You can keep that in mind. I will use it a lot, the empty one. Good thing to know if you cross paths with old code, pseudo-element and pseudo-classes syntax did share the same unique colon mark for a while. Now, pseudo-elements have to be declared with double colons to be distinguishable, even if modern browsers support both. I talk about before and after, but you would ask, okay, before and after what exactly? Do you recall the box model of an element? We have the content box where lays the very content of an element. Around that, we have the padding box, which allows spacing between the content and the border box, then the border box. And to finish, we have the margin box. Just checking quickly if there is something in the chat. CSS, yeah. Okay, good. Don't hesitate if you have any question. Okay, so before and after are not going far. They land right before and after the elements within a content box. It can be after or before a text node or a bunch of children. Sorry for the French here. Slides were in French before this talk. The pseudo element here lays next to the text node. And yeah, sorry for the Latin, but I think you get it right. Anyways, here is what Firefox show me when I write the previous code. So, this code. As you can see, the before and after are really close to the text content. Good things with browser now, you can easily target a pseudo element within the DOM to debug your CSS. So when you target it, you have the CSS on the CSS panel. The only thing you have to declare in CSS is at least a content, an empty content, to make the pseudo element appear in the DOM. So you can create pseudo elements on everything unless it's a replace content element. A replace content in HTML is kind of when new content takes the place of your HTML declaration, like image, iframe, video, embed, etc. Inputs elements are not supposed to be replace content. Those are widgets, but it works the same, meaning that pseudo element doesn't work with it, except some bugs. Here are the main known values for content. So I put a declaration on the top right. The left column is for resetting your content. So usually you don't really use it. The one interesting in the middle column, I'll detail it a bit later. And the right one is for typography, mostly needed for block quotes or cite elements to replace the open and close quote characters. So you don't really need those neither. So the string value can be used that way. You can have an empty value. It's the value I use the most. It does nothing by default. The second code simply add a piece of text. You can also inject a Unicode and use it as an icon. Of course, the prop example doesn't make sense. You don't want to push text strings via CSS. It's not really maintainable nor accessible unless you just want it decorative. So I will start with some content with some value, for content. The URL function allows you to load an image. The issue is that it really behaves weird as fuck. On the bottom right, my initial text. Okay, really on the bottom right. This big shuriken is a 512 pixel wide image. As you can see, the 8 reserved for the image is still 16, but it doesn't care. So I decided to gently ask my pseudo-element to resize a little bit. Apparently, it still doesn't care. Okay, so the little square is on the top left now. And then I tried with an inline flex model. It worked, but it worked only for Firefox, so it's a bug. The only right solution here is to use a background image. As I said, you can do whatever you want with it in CSS, so avoid URL function and use background images instead. It's just URL is buggy, too buggy. The attribute function allows you to get the string value of an attribute. You can use all the attributes you want. In this example, I target the links with an href long attribute, and I put it right after my link. Don't pay attention in the colors on the example. The string added in black is part of the link, okay? Just to show you the content value. The counter value offers you the ability to generate string based on the CSS counter. If you didn't know that we can build counter in CSS, I will show you later how we can use it. So there. Now, know that you already use it, okay? I will talk to all developers before the screens now. I don't know if you are part of the all developers. Do you remember the clear fix solution with this ugly div? Maybe you already met this version with a single class instead. So it's almost the same. The solution equal to the previous one, but you do it directly in CSS. Because floating elements has been added by CSS, so you should fix it with CSS or clear it with CSS. But who cares? Nobody uses floating anymore unless you put your hands into dirty old code. Same for font icon. You may already know this HTML syntax. It simply adds a before pseudo element with a precise Unicode value and the font face with the right icon font to replace the Unicode by an icon. Okay, so it's done with pseudo elements. Last time I gave this talk, it was a workshop and people really liked it. So I invite you to download the folder with some exercises in it. My next demonstration will give you the solutions, but you will be able to rework on it later if you want to. I suppose when we learn with some practice, it's always better. So keep in mind that you can redo the exercise later. So this link on the bottom right is still on the bottom right. Okay, I'll keep it for now. Like that, you can visit it. No worries, take your time. So here is an example of an exercise. With this one, this is one div container. I will ask you to create this shape, okay, within the div. So you can, whether you want to code or just imagine the solution, here are two possible outcomes. Okay, you can write the solution on the paper just to imagine how you will work on it, or you can write down a piece of CSS code, like this solution, for instance. I suggest you to just follow the next slide as a demonstration and do the exercise at home if you want to play with that. Otherwise, this talk is going to last 3 hours. So one of the exercises is that one. For one of your projects, you've been asked to add a print function to some pages. But when you print pages, links are not visible or actionable anymore. Yeah, obvious. Use pseudo-elements to display URL between brackets. Okay. The basic idea is to target all the links that are not internal page anchors that starts with a hash. The circumflex accent allows us here to say anchors with href attributes starting with HTTP. See it like a kind of regular expression. But maybe all the other links are internal links. So by default, I will add my domain before the attribute value. And of course, I have to wrap all of that in a media print query. In the real life, you will have to take into account other kind of protocol like tell, mail2, or simply internal page anchors starting with a hash symbol. Okay, I hope the demonstration was okay for you. Another fun exercise is this one. One of the pages on your website displays a list of files in different formats. Propose a CSS code to help distinguish the multiple extensions. So you don't. Oh, thanks Anna for sharing the link. So if you have any question, go for it. So in the folder you have downloaded, if you already downloaded it, I already load a font icon for you. So here for all my links, I declare a before element with a default icon. Then when my link ends with PDF, I change the color of the icon and the icon. And same for the doc files. Pretty simple, isn't it? Another fun exercise is more typographical example here, titles numbering. So here is the example with the counters. So try to focus on this one. So you are in a big document with a long text like a thesis or something. You want to bring structure by numbering all the titles. Use the element to add numbers before the title. So we'll be using the counters function and the attributes related to it. First of all, we have to create counters. Okay. So here, each time I cross an H1 in my DOM, I want to reset my H2 counter. Same thing with my H3 counter. It will be resetted after each H2. Now I write my number before H2 by using the counter function and the before the elements, of course. I don't know if you're familiar with the upper Roman style, but it's like it's the same than the list style values for ordered lists in HTML, the OL. Of course, I need to increment H2 value also. And we do the same for H3, but here we use two counter functions. The first one to get our H2, and the second one for H3. Okay, and then I decided to add some styling to get the counters out of the flow when screen width is big enough. Another one, no question yet? Fabrice, are all of these demos supported by all command brothers, or are there some limitations? At the moment, it's really well supported, but I've got some slide at the end with all of the support. So I will go through it quickly, but no worries, it's really, really well supported at the moment. Thank you, Anna. Nested links. You want to make the whole card clickable, but also the author and category links actionable. Use pseudo-elements to solve this issue. Pro tips. Absolute and relative positions are your best friends. Let's go. You will see it's not that hard. So here I decided to use the link on the title. So there is a link on the title also, and extend its area by using a pseudo-element. So I will extend the area of the link to make it bigger. I can position my before pseudo-element in the absolute because I know that my article has a relative position already. Don't forget that an absolute positioning is made using the first parent with the position as a reference. So here the pseudo-element is represented by my filettish layer. Then to push the links on the layer over the pseudo-element, a simply position relative will do the job. It works with position relative alone just because all my links are next siblings to my title link. If it wasn't the case, I would have to use the index with one value. And for a better micro interaction styling, you can use a box shadow either on article over or link focus before pseudo-element. As you can see in the video, I don't know if you have the little video with the shadow growing, but while hovering, the state of the link on the title, the underline, changes. That means our pseudo-element works. And we did it on our design system in order to match recommendation in terms of ergonomy and accessibility. We make the clickable area bigger using the same technique, but instead of using a 0 value for bottom, top, bottom, right, left, we used a negative bigger value, like -8 or 16, I don't remember, pixels everywhere. So, but we had to use a pointer event property on Firefox to make it clickable for some reason, but it worked really well. I love the counter trick. So nice, fancy. Yeah. Thanks, Steph. Paper stack effect. A bit of fun with this stack effect. This effect is used sometimes to represent a pile of elements you gathered on, or you are drag and dropping, for instance, when you're moving things around the interface. Recreate this effect with pseudo-elements. Okay, how can we do that? So first, you need a kitten, not use that. But that's not all. You also need to style the first item this way. Okay, so position relative to make this element a new reference for a pseudo element. Remember that relative positioning is a real helper for everything you are going to position in absolute. A bit of padding, background, and shadow to create the little photography effect. I put the same background and shadow onto my pseudo element, and I give them a strictly same size, padding included, than the stack, the dot stack element, thanks to the absolute position and a 0 to all 4 directions. I need the index to -1 to put the pseudo element behind the kitten. Otherwise, it will be just over the kitten. Then I simply rotate the pseudo element. So -10 degrees for the first one and -5 degrees for the second. As I applied a transition property on the pseudo element, I can even create this effect by changing the transform value on over. Good. Another one, burger icon. So for the mobile version of your menu, you want to create this fancy animated effect. Know that you can do it with a single span and pseudo elements. How does it work? The menu button selector here is for the entire menu button, so text included, not only the icon. Inline block display and padding top allows me to prepare a bit of space for the icon, so just above the icon. The text, sorry. Let's take care now of our icon. It's a span, so I need to make it a block of some kind. Here it's got my screen. More here. Then I make a bigger selector, a big selector to give the 3 elements the same width, height, background, and border radius, and prepare them to be animated. Because in the demonstration it was animated. So I used transition to prepare it, but for the moment my pseudo elements don't really exist. And you follow here, so I suppose you know why it doesn't work. It's because we don't have a content yet. So now I make the pseudo element alive and put one at -9 pixel, another one at 9 pixel from their original place. I get that, and now when the button is activated, represented in my code by dot on selector, the middle dash is made transparent, and the two others are slightly rotated and translated to form this close icon. Oh, I didn't see your question. Okay. Just a little check and use it. Oh yeah. Cool. So there is some links shared on the chat. Custom radio buttons now. Create custom radio buttons thanks to pseudo elements. Make it funny or just bigger for better usability and accessibility. You did always dream about it, right? Tell me you always did dream about it. So to do that, the HTML is pretty simple. One paragraph which wraps one input radio and one label. The important thing you have to remember is to always link the input and the labels together by giving them the same value for ID and for attribute. For is the name of the attribute. Okay. So they're put together on the code. CSS part now. First thing, we create our new positioning reference relative again. You're used to it now. Then I prepare my two pseudo elements by positioning them regardless their size. So I use top 50% and translate y50 -50% to have them positioning centered. Regarding the paragraph. So they will be used to create our radio buttons. Then I create the box being checked, the circle. The original radio button is hidden thanks to the background. Okay, so I've got a white background. It makes it still accessible for screen readers and keyboard navigation, interesting for keeping a good level of accessibility. And I use pixels here, but I encourage you to use EM or REM units for better scalability. It's easier to understand with pixel at first. And finally, I create a little dot to represent the selected item. And this one is animated from scale 0 to scale 1 when checked. So animated thanks to transition again, and you can see the transform y minus 50 and scale 0 to scale 1. The second CSS selector is where the magic happens. I selected the checked input to target the direct sibling to modify the after pseudo element. And we are done. A little visual effect. Reproduce this fractured text effect with the things you know now about pseudo elements. Inspired from an article by Mandy Michael. I really recommend you follow her on Twitter and CodePen also. She has a lot of cool demonstration. So this HTML is my starting point. I use a data heading attribute to duplicate the text and use it as pseudo element content value. I used a data attribute to avoid duplicating the text for accessibility reason. Indeed, remember the attribute function you can use to render a text value, string value in your pseudo elements. So here it is. I position the two pseudo elements the same way. And prevent things from overflowing. You will see why now. I put a salmon color on the pseudo element and the after pseudo element and transform it a bit and give it 48% height. Okay. That's why I needed to hide the overflowing part to be able to truncate the text. And now I do exactly the same with the other pseudo elements, but this one is here to hide the upper part of the text. So the browser tries to smooth a bit your text when always okay, and sometimes the smoothing is kind of debatable. So I needed to use a text shadow to avoid having a gray halo around the white text. And if you feel like a ninja, you can even animate it. So let's go further. Do you remember this URL syntax, the one with the weird big shuriken effect? Don't use it. Okay, but if you do, know that you can add an alternative text, like you are supposed to do it with a alt attribute in HTML. You're also able to add kind of a content stack with fallbacks, meaning here that if your browser doesn't support MOV file, for instance, it fallbacks to the PNG. Then it falls back to the text, but I suppose every browser supports PNG now. Nothing related, but you can also create this sort of photo filters with pseudo elements and image blending. And no worries if you don't follow everything on the next slide. There is a demo link for every demonstration, and remember that you will have access to the PDF of the presentation. Bravo, Dominique. Thanks. I don't know why, but thanks. So you take a dog this time, not a kitten. You apply magical CSS filter like contrast, brightness, saturate. So if you didn't know that you can apply CSS filters like this, you can do it. So let's check the documentation. It's filter. Then you take another image source with a black background. It's usually better. You put it on your puppy. And you apply a mixed blend mode on it to create a radiant effect. It's magic. CSS gram made by Yuna try to recreate the Instagram filters with pseudo-element, blending mode, and filters. Okay, so you can do an Instagram filter with CSS only. Another funny demo, but really useful sometimes. On a project where the code was untouchable, I was only allowed, it's a true story, to use CSS, not even JavaScript. The grid system was in Flexbox, and the row design put the first item on the top of the row alone. So one pseudo element, and it was done. So how to do so? I asked the first element to be order -1. So in the Flexbox logic, you have the order property that allows you to reorder things. So I can be sure it will always be the first one. If it's -1, it's always the first one. Oh, I got a question. How hard is CSS filters compatible with Internet Explorer 9? Why are you asking, Tony? I think no, it doesn't. 11. I can't remember. I think no. But I've got a table with compatibility at the end, so we'll go through it. No worries. We'll check together. So to do so, yeah, I asked the first element to be the first one, and really the first one. Then I create a pseudo element in the row parent. It took its place next to the first element. I asked him gently to cover 100%. And voila, I just hide it. So you can also build really advanced shadows using both pseudo elements and bug shadow declaration. I think I've got something for you. Can I? No, I can't. I can go through the demonstration, but you have the link bit.ly/CSS shadows. You've got a small X-ray effect on the previous one. Sorry. So snakes effect like this one. You don't have the animation. Yes, you could use an SVG, but it's a talk about CSS pseudo element, you know. So I did demonstration with pseudo elements. Once decomposed, those animated elements are really simple to build. One moving dot, some rows, and we're done. The same, you've got a little code pen about it. I don't know if Steph is here. Yes. When Stephanie redesigned her portfolio, I built all the animation using pseudo elements, almost all the animations. So you can check directly on the website if you want. And for the same website, I made this destroyed menu icon and animation. You know how to build the icon now, so you can create the effect really easy. And yeah, you've got a demonstration on CodePen with a slow motion on it. And just to show off, I reproduced the lightbox effect in CSS with pseudo element and element function. It's another weird function, but it's working only on Firefox. And you can really do a lightbox effect only with pseudo elements. And it's even keyboard accessible, so I can switch up. Look. And you really have to think it hard to be able to do that, but you can do it, but you also should not do it. Okay, it's not accessible, not really. And it's not compatible. Yet another fractured text effect, but easier to make thanks to clip path and polygon value. Again, it's a demonstration by Mandy Michael. I don't know if I told you, but you should follow her. And it's animated because she is a ninja. So pseudo elements before for an image. Yeah, I kind of lied to you because you can create a pseudo element on images, but only when they are not loaded. Indeed, the browser use it to display the alt content value. There is a bridge, so I used it to customize before and after pseudo elements when images are not loaded. Cool. So the support for this feature is not completely good, but it's kind of okay. It's really a complement for your website too. So some advantages you should agree with now. Pseudo elements, they allow you to generate content quickly. They allow to improve usability and readability. They allow you to create purely visual stuff. And mastered, they allow you to fine-tune everything, even a green system. Alain, you are following like a chief. Thanks. So quickly, I go through support. Pseudo elements are pretty much perfectly supported. Okay. CSS transition 2. Blend mode a bit less, but you know, Internet Explorer, you should drop it if you can. Same for filters. So sorry, Dominique. Pointer event is okay, almost everywhere. Clip path for the second fractal text effect demo, a bit less, but it's really good. Elements, I told you, it's Firefox only, but you know what? You really don't need it. A bit of accessibility now. The support for reading the content of the pseudo element is pretty good. The only issue seems to be Internet Explorer, again, the 11, on Windows with JAWS and NVDA. Let's drop Internet Explorer. Edge is on Chromium now. I've got 4 slides on the future of pseudo-element content, but it's mostly for print purpose or rich text content. So if you don't care, you can go for a 5-minute break. Otherwise, follow me till the end. So, for example, this value target counter allows you to generate a counter related to a targeted element. The content here take 2 parameters, the href content as target and number of page as template. Okay. Another future ability is to use text targets, but here the content is generated from the text within the targeted element. So for the 2 previous functions, the goal is to target an element and extract its content in a way or another to use it in our pseudo element. Okay, so it's literally extract content targeted. A more graphical function is leaders that allows you to create a pattern to visually link together, content together. Here with a dot pattern and in combination with target counter function. Okay, so it's really for print purpose. Last, but my favorite one, the function content will allow you to generate a string content based on the content of the target. Remember our fractal text? We could do it without our data adding. So we used a data adding attribute, and we could have done that with just content function. So last one, other pseudo elements coming, or some are already here. We've got some other tree embedding pseudo elements like marker, the pseudo element before the list item, placeholder, the suggestion within a form field. We've got also highlight pseudo elements, inactive selections, for instance. It's the same as selection, but when inactive. Okay. And we've got spelling and grammar error for text marked as wrong by the user agent. So we will be able to style all of that. Some resources that helped me already, and I'm sure I can help you. There is also Rachel Andrew website and Mandy Michael Twitter, if I didn't mention it already. And that's all. If you have any question, I don't bite so far. So any question on this talk or on any other CSS feature, I'm available here now, or on Twitter or in the chat.
So I have one quick question.
Yeah.
As of today, how often did you use pseudo-elements in production, in projects that you are working on?
Always. For styling effect, like little shapes here and there. For in our design system, for instance, for everything that is related to touchable area, tapeable area, you can make it bigger, but the visual aspect is always the same. But you can have a halo around it that is tapeable. So yeah, I think every day, almost every day when I code.
So this helps you most of the time in the desktop-oriented products or mobile?
Everything, mobile and desktop. You know,
I see.
CSS works everywhere now.
Great, thank you. I don't know if everyone is okay. If you have questions, you can turn on your mic and just ask the question or type the text.
I will quit the presentation. I'm still sharing, right?
If not, then it's okay. Dominic is typing.
And just to show you the effect I talked about here. It's advanced drop shadows. You can see how it's built by using the X-ray function. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen.
So we have a question. For a layout purpose, do you use grid, for instance?
I use Flexbox most of the time.
Okay.
Because we don't have a lot of complex layouts in our application, and we started with Flexbox 2 years ago, so we keep it.
Okay, cool.
It's not too soon. You can really use it now. You can something like 80% of the clients supporting it. Maybe more than that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Geoffroy. We are going to continue. Next speaker is Maxime Salnikov.